How many times did they actually, her poking Caitlin Clark in the eye? And that really had me thinking, like, damn, how many times did they actually, drop the ball and didn't call stuff against Caitlin? Now, Caitlin got called for a technical for hitting the back of the backboard. If somebody viciously clotheslined her, we're not getting a call for that.
You have to be great as a ref. You have to be consistent. You have to. It can't be inconsistent. It can't be AAU refs.
I don't want to see none of the calls being missed like we seen last year, bro. These referees have to get it together. Now, we know the Indiana Fever front office did everything they had to do, put the right pieces around Caitlin Clark, make sure they make it far in the playoffs, and possibly get a WNBA championship. Well, that part is done. We got a new team. We got a new coach. They got everything they need to do to take off for the 2025 season. The only thing left is these WNBA referees. This need to be talked about, just like it was supposed to be talked about at the conclusion of that season. And I'm back on a bumper, bro. I am not letting up on them damn WNBA referees because they are the biggest haters.
And fouls like this one last night. Let's just check it out. There's going to be a drive down the court here, right? And we've got another clothesline from hell. This time, Marina Mabry.
Are the WNBA referees secretly out to sabotage Caitlin Clark? That's the question buzzing across basketball circles after a rookie season that turned the league upside down. Picture this. A 22-year-old phenom steps onto the court, and suddenly, arenas are packed, TV ratings are soaring, and the Indiana Fever, a team that hadn't sniffed relevance in years, are the talk of the town. But it wasn't all highlight reels and standing ovations. Behind the dazzling plays and record-breaking stats, a storm was brewing. One filled with questionable officiating, locker room whispers, and enough drama to rival a soap opera. Now, with the 2025 season looming, the Fever have reloaded their roster, the league's under pressure to clean up its act, and Clark's poised to take her game to new heights. So, what's the catch? Here's a jaw-dropping stat to set the stage. Clark faced contact on over 12% of her drives to the basket but got foul calls less than half as often as other WNBA stars. Coincidence? Bad luck? Or something more sinister? Stick around as we unpack this wild saga and preview what's next. Let's put her impact in perspective. Before Clark arrived, the WNBA was growing steadily but lacked a singular, electrifying figure to catapult it into the mainstream. Then came Caitlin. Viewership spiked by 25% in 2024, with Fever games averaging over 2 million viewers, numbers that dwarfed the league's previous benchmarks. Merchandise sales? Up 300% for Indiana alone, with Clark's number 22 jersey outselling entire teams. She wasn't just a player, she was a cultural earthquake. But fame comes with a target on your back, and Clark's rookie year was a crash course in that reality. Take the August 28th game against the Connecticut Sun. Clark drives baseline, gets clotheslined by Alyssa Thomas, and crashes to the floor, no whistle. Or the June matchup with the Phoenix Mercury, where Dijanai Carrington's hand met Clark's face in what looked like a deliberate eye poke. Refs shrugged it off. These moments didn't just fuel highlight reels. They sparked a firestorm of debate that's still raging today. Caitlin Clark didn't just walk into the WNBA. She stormed in like a force of nature. Her journey started at the University of Iowa, where she turned college basketball into her personal playground. Over 4 years, she smashed every record in sight. NCAA all-time leading scorer with 3,951 points, the first player to rack up 3,000 points and 1,000 assists, and a three-point range so absurd it drew comparisons to Steph Curry in his prime. She didn't just shoot. She launched bombs from the logo, leaving defenders scrambling and fans leaping out of their seats. Her senior year capped it off with a Final Four run that had the sports world buzzing. Think 49-point triple-doubles and clutch shots that felt scripted for Hollywood. When the Fever snagged her with the number 1 pick in the 2024 draft, it was like finding a golden ticket. Indiana hadn't made the playoffs since 2016. Their roster was a revolving door of mediocrity, and their home court, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, was more echo chamber than electric atmosphere. Clark changed all that in a heartbeat. Her debut game drew 17,000 fans, a franchise record, and by season's end, she'd posted 19.2 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game, earning Rookie of the Year in a landslide. "She's a generational talent," said Fever GM Lynn Dunn. "We haven't seen anything like her since Diana Taurasi." Teammate Kelsey Mitchell called her a magician with the ball, while analysts like Rebecca Lobo gushed, "She's the shot in the arm this league needed." But Clark's magic went beyond stats. The Fever's history reads like a cautionary tale, a 2012 championship followed by a decade of irrelevance, with stars like Tamika Catchings retiring and no one to fill the void. By 2023, they were a 5-31 laughingstock, barely drawing 4,000 fans a night. Clark flipped the script. Suddenly, the Fever were a playoff team, finishing 20-20 and pushing the Sun to the limit in the first round. Ticket sales tripled, corporate sponsors lined up, and the franchise's valuation soared. She wasn't just a player, she was a one-woman economic stimulus package. Yet, as her star rose, so did the challenges, especially from the officials who seemed determined to keep her grounded. If you watched Caitlin Clark play last season, you probably noticed something off. The refs didn't just miss calls, they practically invented new ways to ignore them. Let's rewind to some of the most egregious moments. June 19th against the Mercury. Clark slashes to the hoop. Carrington's hand rakes across her face, leaving her wincing in pain, no foul. August 28th versus the Sun. Clark's driving. Thomas throws an elbow that could have doubled as a wrestling move, and she hits the deck. Refs stare blankly. Then there's the September 10th game against the Chicago Sky, where Chindy Carter hip-checks Clark into next week after the whistle, and the call comes late, downgraded to a common foul despite the flagrant intent. The numbers back up the eye test. Clark faced contact on 12.3% of her drives, higher than most guards, but got calls just 40% of the time, compared to a league average of 65% for all-stars like Aya Wilson or Sabrina Ionescu. Meanwhile, she was slapped with technicals for things like slapping the backboard in frustration, hardly a crime worthy of punishment when you're getting mugged every other play. "It's like they're daring her to complain," said analyst Nancy Lieberman. But when she does, they penalize her. Fans took notice, and social media became a war zone. After the Sky incident, #ProtectCaitlin trended on Twitter, with one user posting a slow-mo clip captioned, "This isn't basketball, it's assault." Another viral montage racked up 2 million views, showing 15 uncalled fouls in a single game, set to dramatic music for effect. The outrage wasn't just about Clark. It shone a spotlight on the WNBA's broader officiating woes. Complaints about inconsistency have dogged the league for years, from botched calls in the 2022 finals to missed travels in tight games. But with Clark's every move under a microscope, the issue hit critical mass. By season's end, the league had no choice but to launch an investigation, promising accountability and training upgrades. Too little, too late? Fans weren't convinced. As if the officiating mess wasn't enough, rumors started swirling around Clark like flies at a picnic. The whispers began mid-season. Some Fever veterans were reportedly salty about the rookies stealing their thunder. It's tough when the whole narrative shifts to one player, an anonymous source told ESPN. Not everyone was happy about it. Names like Nalissa Smith and Kelsey Mitchell popped up in speculation. Both had been team leaders before Clark's arrival, and now they were footnotes in her story. Was it jealousy? Frustration? Or just media stirring the pot? Then came the trade buzz. With the Fever bowing out in the playoffs, analysts wondered if a roster shakeup was coming. Could Smith, a former number 2 pick who struggled to mesh with Clark's style, be on the block? What about Mitchell, whose contract was up? Fans ran wild with theories, some even suggesting Clark might bolt for Unrivaled, the new 3, on 3 league promising million-dollar paydays and a spotlight tailored for stars like her. She'd own that league, one Reddit thread argued. No refs, no drama, just Caitlin being Caitlin. The rumors peaked after a cryptic Instagram post from Clark, a photo of her in a Fever jersey with a caption, focused on what's next. Fans dissected it like a treasure map. Was she hinting at a trade demand? A new chapter? In reality, Clark stayed cool as ever. "I love my team," she said in a presser. "We're building something special." Still, the noise was deafening, and it painted a picture of a franchise at a crossroads, torn between its past and its dazzling future. The Fever didn't sit idly by, they went all in. First move, ditch head coach Christie Sides, whose conservative style clashed with Clark's freewheeling game, and bring in Stephanie White. White's a proven commodity. She led the Sun to the 2022 finals with a high-octane offense that'll let Clark cook. "She's our engine," White said. "We're building everything around her vision and pace." Then came the off-season haul. Dewana Bonner, a 6'4" sharpshooter with 3 rings and a knack for clutch buckets. Natasha Howard, a 6'2" defensive player of the year who'll swat shots and crash boards. And Sophie Cunningham, a 6'1" firecracker who's equal parts shooter and enforcer. Add them to Mitchell's long-range sniping and Aaliyah Boston's paint dominance, and you've got a squad that's deep, versatile, and downright scary. Bonner's 16.7 points per game last season will stretch defenses thin, while Howard's 2.1 blocks per game give Clark room to gamble on steals. Cunningham, though, is the X factor. More on her later. This wasn't a tweak. It was a transformation. New practice digs, bigger sponsors, and a roster that screams contender have the Fever at third in title odds behind only Vegas and New York. "We're not here to play around," GM Dunn said. "This is a championship core." The pieces fit like a puzzle. Clark's playmaking, Bonner's scoring, Howard's defense, and Cunningham's grit. But the elephant in the room remains. Will the refs let this machine run? Or will they throw sand in the gears again? The WNBA couldn't ignore the ref debacle forever. By October, they'd launched a full investigation into Clark's treatment, suspending 3 officials and vowing systemic changes. Commissioner Kathy Engelbert took the mic. "We hear the fans. We're committed to better." New rules promised stricter enforcement on flagrant fouls, and refs faced mandatory retraining. But with many of the same faces still calling games, trust was in short supply. Social media kept the pressure on. A TikTok video of Clark getting hammered by 2 defenders, followed by an offensive foul call, racked up 3 million views, captioned, "WNBA refs need glasses." Another fan tweeted a side-by-side of Clark's fouls versus Wilson's, asking, "Why the double standard?" The backlash wasn't just about one player, it exposed a league-wide issue. Brianna Stewart once called officiating a coin flip, while Aya Wilson vented about missed calls in the 2023 playoffs. Clark's spotlight just turned up the volume. Change is coming, maybe. The league's testing AI-assisted reviews and adding a 4th ref for big games. But with 2025 tipping off soon, the jury's out. If the refs don't deliver, the Fever's title dreams and the WNBA's credibility could take a hit. Meet Sophie Cunningham, Clark's new on-court bodyguard. Known as the Phoenix from her son's days, she's a 6'1" menace who plays like she's got a chip on both shoulders. Last season, Clark got roughed up, pushed, elbowed, and generally treated like a tackling dummy. Cunningham's here to end that. "I've got her back," she said after signing. "No one's messing with Caitlin on my watch." Cunningham's resume speaks for itself. 1.2 steals per game, a 38% three-point stroke, and a reputation for physicality that makes opponents think twice. In a 2023 game, she flattened a sky guard with a screen that went viral. Pure hustle. She's already shown flashes in Fever practices, bodying up defenders and chirping at anyone who gets too close to Clark. "She's a dog," Clark said with a laugh. "I love it." Clark's leveled up, too. She spent the offseason bulking up, think 10 pounds of muscle, and a newfound ability to shrug off contact. "I got tired of getting pushed around," she told reporters. "Now I'm ready to dish it back." Together, they're a yin-yang combo. Clark's finesse and Cunningham's fury. Opponents won't know what hit them. The 2025 season is make or break for the Fever. Their schedule's a gauntlet. Early clashes with the Aces, Liberty, and Sun, but this roster's built to slug it out. Clark's the MVP favorite, projected at 22 points and 10 assists, and the team's eyeing a finals run. Key matchups like the June 15th rematch with Chicago, Carter versus Cunningham, anyone, are already circled. The refs, though, loom large. One bad call could derail a tight game. One fair whistle could unleash the Fever's full fury. The league's on notice. Mess this up, and the backlash will be brutal. Clark's MVP rivals, Wilson, Ionescu, Stewart, won't go quietly, but her narrative and stats give her the edge. If she drags Indiana to the chip, the hardware's hers and the WNBA's golden era begins. Caitlin Clark's already a legend, lifting the Fever from the basement to the big stage in one wild year. She's faced rogue refs, locker room rumors, and cheap shots, yet she's stronger than ever. With Sophie Cunningham by her side and a stacked roster behind her, 2025 could be her crowning moment, or another officiating circus. My call? If the refs play fair, the Fever win it all. If not, buckle up for more chaos. What's your take? Drop it in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe for the next chapter.